everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. This is my May wrap-up. May was the longest month ever. My reading was not great. I read a lot of very meh books, and I know that quite a few people had a very similar experience in May. For some reason, I don't really know what's happening, but there we go. So I read a total of 15 books, I think, in May, but I also forgot to update my statistics page on in my reading journal. So yeah, this is what my books read page looks like at the moment, and I think I caught everything, but there's also a chance that I've forgotten a couple of books. So I'm just gonna get into them and we're gonna see how it goes. I really should have been more prepared. So I did do the May the Force Be With You readathon, and as far as I'm aware, I did become Emperor for the dark side, because I definitely read those 5 books to meet the prompts, but I don't know how far I got through the Jedi order. I'm going to calculate this and put it up on the screen. I'm going to tell you if I've become a Jedi or maybe I haven't, I don't know. I would hope with 15 books I could meet some of the prompts at least, so yeah, I feel like that readathon went well, even though I didn't really participate in the community aspect of things. I'm just gonna, I've got piles of books everywhere, so I'm just gonna pick these 2. So one of the ones that I read, or quite a few of the books that I read, were for the Taylor Jenkins Reid project that I did. So I read all of her books and I decided which one I thought was best. I had already read Seven Husbands, Daisy Jones and Forever Interrupted, so I was reading the remainder that I hadn't already read. So one of those was Maybe in Another Life. This one is a sliding doors type story told in parallel timelines. One minor choice that the main character makes kind of completely messes with the outcome of her life. In one parallel universe, she is hit by a car, becomes disabled, and also loses a baby. And then in the other life, she actually has the baby and goes through with the pregnancy, and it's kind of dealing with her relationship with another guy. So I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really well told. I love parallel universe type stuff, so the alternating chapters were perfect to me. I also think, having also read One True Loves, which I will talk about in a moment, that Taylor Jenkins Reid was writing really good friendships in these books. Both characters have really great best friends, and I really appreciate that, because that's something I'd like to see more in fiction rather than just the romance between the main character and her love interest. I also want to see some friendships between her, or the main character, and other people. So yeah, really enjoyed this one. If you want my more in-depth thoughts, you can go and check out my Taylor Jenkins Reid project. I will try to remember to link it below. And then, like I said, I also read One True Loves, which is about basically the main character's husband dies in a helicopter accident, and then a few years later she moves on, becomes engaged again, and then he comes back to life because he's been living on an island this entire time. So it's a bit unrealistic, but you know, so it's Maybe in Another Life. I did really enjoy it, and this one stressed me out. I gave this one 3.5 stars, 4 stars. It was very well written, I thought, but the choice that the main character had to make between staying with her, what was her ex-husband, because they were officially divorced, she was widowed, or moving on with her now fiance, was very stressful to me. I didn't know which guy she should have chosen. It was a very personal choice, obviously, and I couldn't figure out which one was better for her, because she also didn't know. It was a very tricky situation to be in, and I kept imagining myself to be in that same situation, and it really got to me. So after reading this one, I did have to go on a bit of a Taylor Jenkins Reid break, because I just couldn't do it anymore. Again, I talk about this more in my Taylor Jenkins Reid project, so if you want to know more, go and check out that video. I then read A Dead Djinn in Cairo, which is a very short story. I think it was about 50 pages, if that, and it's about a dead djinn in Cairo, and it's kind of a steampunky sort of world, and it's the first short story in a greater series, or what is going to become a greater series. I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 3 stars. I don't do well with short stories, it's particularly SFF short stories, because there's so much world building that needs to come into play that I tend to not really get as involved in them, and I don't find them too compelling because they're trying to pack such a large amount into such a short time, or short amount of pages. So yeah, I didn't love it, but I'm definitely interested in checking out more of his work. I also read Haunted by Kelly Armstrong, which is a paranormal romance, urban fantasy sort of thing. It's the 5th book in the Women of the Other World series, and I didn't like this one. I didn't like it when I first read it, according to Goodreads. I don't remember reading it, and this time around I definitely skim read it just so I could get a recap up on Recaptains and then finish or carry on with the series. I don't love this one. This one follows Eve, who is a ghost, and she has to go after a creature called a Nyx, which can possess people, like human people, or living people I should say, and basically cause havoc. So she's going after them. I didn't love it. I didn't love I don't love Eve for one thing. I don't love her relationships with any of the characters because they're basically non-existent. She's very far removed from the rest of the characters compared to Elena and Paige because they're kind of in the living world. So Eve is very much separate. I didn't love that. So I gave this one 3 stars when I first read it and probably 2 stars now. I am going to continue on with the series just because I know it goes back to Elena, who I'm liking a lot more now that I've had a few books not focusing on her. And then later on I think we're focusing on Jamie, who is a psychic necromancer sort of thing. I'm really looking forward to that, but I did not enjoy this book. I read Take Me Home Tonight by Morgan Matson, who is one of my favourite authors. This is a YA contemporary book and this is probably one of my least favourite Morgan Matson books. I found that it took a long time for it to get going. I should probably tell you what it's about first. So the 2 main characters sneak into New York City for the night. They're from New Jersey, I think. Yeah, that's the place that's near New York City, right? It doesn't actually say on the back, but I think that's right. So they sneak out into New York City for the night, then they get separated and they have kind of like an adventure in the city and lots of dramatic things happen. There's a dog which was adorable and I really like the friendship in this one. I liked the exploration of being best friends but also having issues with each other because no friendship is perfect. Like you have to communicate if you have issues and these 2 girls definitely did. But then there was also a really weird side plot. So like I was saying a minute ago, the book took forever to get going. They took forever to get into the city and to sneak around their parents, and I reckon it was probably about 100 pages before I started to actually enjoy the book. And then all of a sudden it sort of switched to this kind of crime thriller sort of thing, and I don't want to spoil it because that would be really annoying. I didn't see that coming and I don't know why Morgan Matson put it in there because it's unlike anything she's ever done with her books before. So it was an interesting choice. I didn't hate it, but it was certainly kind of out of left field and it was very unexpected from her. So I gave this one 3.5 stars I think. I'm going to do a Morgan Matson ranking video in which I discuss all of her books because it's been a while since I've talked about her books. It's been a while since she last released a book before this one. So I think I would enjoy that video and it might be quite helpful to you guys as well if you're figuring out where to start with Morgan Matson's books or which one you think might enjoy the most. It's not going to be a whole long project, it's just going to be a ranking video. I did enjoy this one, wasn't as good as her previous books, but what can you do? I then read Project Hail Mary, which is Andy Weir's new book. I did a full review of this one and I will link it down below and up above if I remember. This one is another sci-fi book from this author and I enjoyed it a lot more than Artemis. Not that I hated Artemis by any means, but I enjoyed it more. I didn't love it as much as The Martian just because I didn't really feel as connected to the main character as I did with Mark Watney, and I love Mark Watney. He's one of my favourite characters of all time. I just felt such a connection with him and his obsession with potatoes. So I very much enjoyed Project Hail Mary. I gave it 4 stars. This one is about a guy who he wakes up, he doesn't know his own name, he doesn't know where he came from, doesn't know where he is. He finds out that he's on a spaceship and his crewmates are dead and have been dead for a while. So he's kind of investigating why he's on this spaceship, how to get off this spaceship and what their mission was, because obviously there's a reason they're in space. I really enjoyed that thriller aspect of it. The whole mystery in the first half of the book, talking about how the main character is discovering what was happening to him and what led up to this moment and why his crewmates are dead, that was very, very good. It takes a bit of a shift about halfway through when something happens and you realise what the main character is going to have to do in order to fulfill his mission. And that's what I'm going to say about the plot, but it was a very good book. I really enjoyed it. There was a really cute character called Rocky who I loved and I think everyone else would love too. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Andy Weir comes out with next. Hopefully he brings another book out soon because I'm really into sci-fi at the moment. I read another couple of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. I read After I Do, which is another kind of adult general fiction romance kind of thing. The main character has been arguing with her husband and they realise they're maybe not in love with each other anymore because they find sort of nitpicky things to argue with each other over. So they decide to take a year-long break where they have no communication whatsoever, kind of live their lives and figure out if they still want to get back together or if they're still in love with each other. I found this one again quite stressful because I was putting myself in the main character's shoes and imagining that I was arguing with my partner like that, and it made me really, really sad. So it was a tough read for me, even though like it wasn't very relatable at all, but I was still kind of, I don't know, is it relatable if you're putting yourself in the shoes of someone who like you don't think you're in the same situation as? I don't know, but I did find it quite stressful and it wasn't as compelling or captivating as her other books, and I didn't really like the lack of kind of ridiculousness that Maybe in Another Life and One True Loves had because of the whole like amped up drama thing. And I think this was Taylor Jenkins Reid's second published book after Forever Interrupted, and I hated Forever Interrupted and I didn't really love this one, so I gave this one 2.5 stars. It was okay, but I wouldn't reread it, wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I'd definitely recommend reading one of her other books first. And then I read a short story by her called Evidence of the Affair. This one is told solely in letter format. It's set in the 70s or 80s, I think, so pre-internet. The main character, the woman, finds out that her husband is having an affair with someone's wife. So she contacts the husband of that wife and the two start exchanging letters about their partners who are having the affair. Things escalate from there, and then at the end there's this kind of like thrillery gotcha twist that I actually quite enjoyed and I wasn't really expecting. It wasn't really a twist, but it was kind of, yeah, it was good. It reminded me a bit of the letters in The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, although not really. I'm probably not making much sense, but it's a short story. I don't want to give too much away, and I did enjoy it, so I gave this one 4 stars. I then read one of my favourite books of the month, which was unexpected. It was just one that I picked up from the library because I went to the library and found a bunch of books. So that was My Lovely Wife, and I think I was in dire need of a thriller in May because I didn't really pick up any, I don't think. I read this right at the end of the month. It was the final book that I read, and I read it in a day because it was just so gripping and so captivating. So this one is about a married couple. At the beginning you find out that they have killed a woman or have captured a woman, and that woman is later killed, and then you find out that they've been doing this with other women too, and they want to plan the next one. And that's a very, first of all, a very interesting concept. Like, the idea of following the point of view of a serial killer is fascinating to me. Not because I want to idolize them, they're like a fictional character, but because it's not really something you see in thrillers all that much. Normally it's the victim's point of view that you're following. So that was initially what drew me in, and it was also really well told. I also found out after reading reviews, I don't think the main character in this has a name. I don't really know why the author chose to do that, but that's interesting. Maybe he does have a name and I just didn't realise, but yeah. As far as I'm aware, I can't remember his name, which isn't really anything new, and the reviews seem to confirm that. I really enjoyed this one, mostly because of the family aspects of it. I might do a full review on it actually, because I've got a lot of things to say, but it was an interesting dynamic between all of the family members. The main characters, who are the serial killers, they really care about their children, and the main character, the husband in particular, he starts to regret what he's doing once he sees how the local murders are affecting his kids. So that was a really interesting idea, and I liked how the author explored it. I'm looking forward to reading more of her books. She's got one book coming out this year that I can't remember the name of, and then I think her other second book that came out last year is called He Started It, and I'm going to request that one from the library because I want to check it out. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. It was something new in the thriller genre that I hadn't really come across before. 4 stars for this one, really liked it. I then read Better Together by Christine Riccio, and I really didn't like it. I read the second half of it. I gave it 2 stars. It wasn't like the worst book I've ever read, but god, does she waffle on. So this is about, it's basically The Parent Trap. The 2 siblings who, they don't know about each other, or one knows about the other, and they come across each other when they go to a kind of wellness retreat sort of thing. I didn't like it. I thought it was really poorly written again, but better. And I didn't like the relationship between the 2 main characters, and again, it took forever to actually get going. I'm sure we were like 30% of the way through before they actually met each other and started talking and coming up with a plan. So yeah, I didn't like it. I'm going to do a full review on it. I don't know if that will be up on Saturday or the week after. I'm not sure yet. It depends if I feel like recording a review after I record this video. I read Day Zero, which I gave 2 stars as well. This one is an adult sci-fi book about the robot rebellion. It's basically the robot uprising, and it's a prequel to his other series, which I haven't read. And I think if I had read the other series first, I would have enjoyed this one more. I just don't think I had the right context or the right connection to the characters and the world to enjoy this one. I think this isn't really one that you can really jump into, in my opinion. Not because of the references, as far as I'm aware, but because I feel like you need to get a feel for the entire world and where the robots end up before you read about their uprising, at least in the way that this story is told. So I gave this one 2 stars. I didn't love it. I might check out the other series by him that leads on from this one, but I'm not too sure yet. Okay, I'm really confused because I've got 2 more books on my list, but then I've got 5 more here. So I've definitely miscalculated. I think I might have read 17 books in May. Another one that I read is The Death of Vivek Ogee. So I got this one from the library as well. This one is set in Nigeria. It's about Vivek Ogee, who dies at the beginning, and then it flashes back and you read about the lead up to Vivek's death. I didn't love this one. I did think it was very emotional, and I read it really quickly. I read it in just a couple of hours. So I was definitely gripped by it, and it was very fast paced. I liked the setting of Nigeria. It was fun to, not fun, it was interesting to read about. But there was incest in this one, and that's what really put me off, because I didn't really feel like the author had to go there. I don't want to spoil it, but there are cousins who get into a sexual relationship. I think it's quite important for me to share that in case it triggers anyone. I wasn't personally triggered, but I did think it was quite disgusting, and I was questioning the choice of the author, because why was it in there? And I haven't actually seen anyone talk about that in any wrap-ups or anything where they have read this book, so that's interesting. 3 stars I would say for this one, maybe 2.5. It wasn't an amazing book by any means, but I did enjoy reading it about Vivek. I don't really know what else to say. Then I read Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I loved, so I gave this one 4 stars. This, again, I talk about in my Taylor Jenkins Reid project. This video is getting really long, so please go and check out that video if you want a more in-depth review. But basically this is about 4 siblings who are the children of one of Evelyn Hugo's ex-husbands. So Mick Reaver, the one that got their marriage annulled, he had 4 kids with another woman or other women. So in alternating timelines, you follow the 4 children in the lead up to a house party that one of them is having, and then you also flash back to their parents, Mick and his wife, as children or teenagers as they meet and get engaged, get married, have the kids, and you see Mick Reaver keep leaving his children to pursue his career and to pursue other women. It was a very interesting story. I really enjoyed it. There was a good amount of drama and old Hollywood stuff in there as well, which I really enjoyed. I think Taylor Jenkins Reid does really well with her historical biographies, not autobiographies, it would be biographies, that she has been doing with Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones. I think she does really well with following characters from start to finish on their kind of journey through fame. And while the children aren't really as famous as their father, they do have some connections to Hollywood and they are rich, so you've got the rich people drama in there as well, which I really enjoy. So I really enjoyed this one, gave it 4 stars. I finished off The Bone Shard Daughter, which I think I finished off in May, except I haven't written it down, so I don't know. This one is an adult fantasy book. We read this for the Space Sirens book club. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend the live show, but it might be a good thing that I didn't, because I only gave this 3 stars. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. So this is an epic fantasy book. In this one, the Emperor of the Empire, he uses bone shard magic to create these kind of constructs, which are kind of like, not zombies because they're not dead, but he puts Frankenstein-like monsters together and then uses shards from people's skulls, like his citizens' skulls, to put into these Frankenstein-like monsters and then control them. It sounds a bit weird, but it makes sense. His daughter is currently training to become the next emperor, so it follows her, and she's not really living up to her dad's expectations. He keeps testing her, but it's not going too well. And then there's also a character whose name I can't remember, but he's a smuggler, and he was great. He was my favorite character. I thought he was very easy to connect to. I felt a lot of emotion about him, and he also has an animal companion who I loved, like favorite character in the entire book. I didn't think this was very unique or fantastical, which is mainly where my issues lay. They weren't really issues, like it was okay, it was good, but I didn't love it by any means. I will be checking out the sequel. I hope that the author kind of goes a bit more out there, because at the moment it feels very generic fantasy. That's okay if that's what you're in the mood for, but from how people were talking about this one, I was expecting something more epic. I would compare it a tiny bit to the 5th season, but that's just because in this fantasy world apocalyptic events are happening, and that's the only reason I would probably compare the two. It doesn't really have the same feel or the same writing style. I don't know. I gave this one 3 stars. I would continue with the series, but I'm not expecting it to be an all-time favourite. Maybe if I read the series and enjoy it and then go back and read this one, I will love it, but I just don't know yet. And then I think this is the final book that I read. No, it isn't the final book. Okay, so I read You've Reached Sam, which is a book that's not coming out until November. This is a YA contemporary. In this one, the main character's boyfriend dies in a car accident. She's grieving, and then she realizes that if she calls his phone or he calls her, they can talk to one another. I didn't love it. I didn't think it was very engaging. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay, but I have to say this was when I was in the middle of my slump, so I don't know exactly if I would have loved it a bit more if I had been in the right headspace for it. And it's a shame that I read it so early, because maybe I would have liked it a bit more in the winter time, just because I tend to prefer contemporary like in August to November. For some reason, it's just something I've noticed. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. 3 stars though, because it just felt like just YA contemporary and it wasn't really stand out. It felt a bit like If I Stay by Gail Forman, which I also didn't love, but maybe people would enjoy this one. The actual final book that I read in May was Rich People Problems, which I also got from the library. This is the 3rd book in the Crazy Rich Asians series. I gave this one 2.5 stars. Again, I think this might have been the start of my reading slump, because I didn't love it. I was expecting to find it as hilarious and compelling and funny as the first 2 books, but in this one it just kind of dragged on. I really feel like the author was kind of leaning reining in or dipping into the cash cow with this one because it wasn't as great as the other two books, which I loved. I thought it was so funny. So in this one, the grandma, she is sick. The entire Crazy Rich Asians family is coming together because they all want, first of all, some of them want to know if she's doing okay. Others are after her money and her estate because they are super rich. So it was mainly revolving around that really, and there were a couple of different plot points that sort of diverged, or some that didn't have anything to do with it seemingly at all. And I think for me, I just felt very disconnected from this one because of that. There was just one focal point, and I was used to in these books to following a bit more of a diverse cast. Diverse in that it's not like surrounding one event. I didn't love this one, but I still give it 3 stars, 2.5 stars maybe. I don't really have much more to say about it because it's the 3rd book in a series that I was enjoying until this one. And then I'm also in the middle of a few books. This is getting really long now, so I'm just going to quickly hurry up. I'm reading The Firekeeper's Daughter. I have maybe 150 pages left. I'm enjoying this one. I'm reading The Stars Are Legion. I am that far through, so I'm only 75 pages in. This is a sci-fi book. Really enjoying this one as well, but it's a bit confusing. And then I'm also reading This Place, which is graphic novels, or a series of graphic novel short stories told in different art styles. It's basically a lot of indigenous, I think several indigenous creators telling various different stories. And some of the art in this is absolutely stunning. And I've been reading one of these like every other night before I go to bed. I do think because this is Canadian stories, I'm lacking a lot of context for these because I don't know much about Canadian history, but it is inspiring me to learn more, which is good. And then also I'm really enjoying the art styles, so I think this is one that I'm going to go back and reread at some point. So I'm not going to do stats in this video because clearly I've done an awful job of keeping track of my stats this month. I guess you'll find out about those in my quarterly wrap up. These are some of the books that I read. I also read some more that I've already told you about. Let me know how your May went in the comments below. Were you also in a reading slump? Let me know if you've read any of these books. If you would like to talk about them, that would be great. And thank you for watching. I'll speak to you all in my next video. Bye.